Dear friends, good evening. Thank you for joining us to another Gnostic Lab practical application. In the practice that we have tonight, we're going to work with comprehending objections. And to comprehend objections, let's take a quick look at the four different types of men. The first type of man is the instinctive man. This is a man that is reactive. This is a man that is responding only to his impulses. And of course, all of these impulses that are heavily conditioned, influenced by the ego itself. So when it comes to comprehending objections, one type of man that is instinctive will be receiving those impressions, and rather than being able to transform them, he will find a means to immediately react to the impulse. That reaction could come in a variety of different ways. There can be some impressions that will arrive in terms of words of criticism. And rather than taking those words and giving them the value that they merit, rather than taking the opportunity to learn from the input that is being received, the instinctive man would see that as an attack. He would see that as something from which he must have to run, flee, or fight. So this is the level 1 man. The level 2 man is the man that is entirely emotional. And the emotional man would receive impressions, and those impressions would flow through the intellect, of course, filtered and conditioned by the ego, and they would generate a series of reactions. These emotions will tend to be of a magnitude more intense than the actual impression itself. For example, we may see someone who receives, as in our previous example, someone who receives the impression of words of criticism. And in that emotional response, rather than fighting it or fleeing it, the emotional man will stand up and throw his hands in the air. He would be able just to toss the coffee cup across the hall. He would be able just to slam his hand on the table, raise his voice. That is that emotional man. Whether it is instinctive or it is emotional, for both of these, the sexual creative center becomes immediately drained. Because when this is happening, there is no transformation of any impression. That creative energy immediately becomes invoked because the brain responds to whatever is happening, conditioned as well with the many other similar events that may have taken place in a man's life. And then that creative energy, rather than flowing through channels that contribute, that are edifying and dignifying to the consciousness, that creative energy then flows through channels where it should never flow. And then the emotional man explodes in a bout of anger, or falls on its knees, defeated, or falls into a condition of depression, or falls into a condition of numbness, or just remains frustrated, but in a way that is not exteriorized, and then starts committing occult acts against others. That means that he will do things without telling someone. He will say things in someone's back. And, well, the emotional man tends to complicate situations. And then we have the intellectual man. The intellectual man would receive all of these impressions, again, sticking to the same example of an impression of words of criticism, and would keep them and argue against them. They would receive that impression would be filtered by the ego, it would remain in the mind, and while those words are still there, they're bouncing in comparisons to other similar events. The person would start relying on what about this and what about that to encourage even more comparisons. And it would be almost impossible to get a teaching or a good learning when it comes to all of these activities that remain stuck within the intellect. But then, if what we have is a man that is awakened in the astral plane, this is a man who has fabricated a superior existential body. Well, this man would be able to receive these words. He would be able to assimilate them because they would have transformed that impression. they would receive these words and they would be able to extract the true anemic value of the input that he has received, of what he has perceived, and he would be unmoved, knowing from that higher, superior perspective that there is no need to react, that it is easier to contemplate all of these inputs by falling back to a position of creating no harm and being able to look at the reactions in his own physical body. He would be able to immediately reconcile opposites. If there are words of criticism and judgment, he would see that in other instances, he has performed in ways that are better. He can see where his shortcomings are, and he would be able to identify an opportunity and a path to even make things better. But before we get to that level, there is a level 4 of man, which is the man who is capable of comprehending objections. This man can listen to the words of others without having to react. This is a man who has developed enough good ability to know that under the fundamental precept of ahimsa, no harm to others, he can listen to what others have to say. And he is capable of identifying where is the good and where is that which is not that good. If those are words that are insults, even from within the quote-unquote badness that comes with all the insults, he is able to find that silver lining. And he is able to find the good within the chaos, and he will be able to find also the elements of chaos within that which is good. This man who is capable of comprehending objections respects the opinions of others. He knows that he has to be placing no restriction, no resistance. He knows that he does not have to be trying to use his creative power to try to convince others, to influence the thoughts of others so that others do different. He respects the free will of everyone around him. This man who is capable of comprehending objections, he will be able to not only perceive what is happening as those words come to him, but he will also have a good understanding that the one who is issuing those words, that they are also suffering, that they are also going through difficulties in life, that if they're speaking when they're angry, that they don't mean what they're saying. But they will also understand that if a person is speaking in a certain way when they're angry, that maybe it is that inferior aspect of anger that is allowing that person to convey some partial elements of truth, and he would be able to get the good from that. He would not create enmities. He would not create conflicts. The man capable of comprehending objections listens, and it listens in a comfortable posture. He is able to perceive. He is able to see what is happening in his own mind, in his own heart, what is happening to his own body. And just like that, see where his emotions could be and the opposite, and reconcile that almost instantaneously. The level 4 man is by all means a superior man. Many of us will find ourselves commonly in instinctive reactions, trapped in emotional conflicts, or trapped in intellectual comparisons. And depending on the day, depending on how tired the body is, depending on how much abuse of the intellect we have incurred, depending on how much we have abused of our emotional center, well, we will fall into any one of these categories, because we know that whenever one of these 3 brains is abused, the lack of balance, well, affects the operation of the other 2. So the level 4 man is a man that is superior in nature. We have to keep in mind that everyone has the right to state their opinions, and the best happens when we do not object. If you must state your truth, say it. Samael says, speak the truth at whatever the cost. We have learned through various experiencing, through the experiences of others, that nobody really regrets being courageous. So speaking the truth is of tremendous value. Speak your truth, and once your truth has been spoken, you must trust that the creative power that is used to convey that truth is strong enough to allow those words to penetrate and settle within the psyche, the mind, the emotions of others. But to raise our voice, to get in conflict, to become too emotional and start tossing our hands, raising our voice, even when you're not arguing, for others to perceive that you're yelling, that you're complaining, that you see, that has to give you some indication that there is an improvement that can be made. Everyone has the right to state their opinions, and the best happens when we do not object. So if you find yourself liking or disliking something, open yourself for a second to that which is new and realize that disliking does not mean that you have to protest. Let's understand for a second that the fact that we may dislike certain things does not mean that we have to be in conflict with it, that we have to be setting resistance, that we have to cringe, and that we have to burn of our creative energy for that. We can dislike things without objecting. We can dislike things without incurring in a protest. Because if we do that, the moment that we start using of our creative energy and this starts flowing through the wrong channels in the body, ultimately our own defects would benefit from that additional source of power. And then those objections, as light or as inconsequential as you may think that they are, well, they will multiply antipathy. They will slowly strengthen your hatred. They will feed your selfishness, your violence, your pride. And you may start by allowing this to happen, and before you realize, you lose track of the progress that you have made. And then, as you once again identify and fascinate with the circumstances, once you go back into your sleep of the consciousness, then you will see your ego responding violently, going back into a type 1, instinctive, type 2, emotional, type 3, intellectual type of man. Every time that we have an objection against someone, every time that we make use of that objection and we issue a judgment that as a matter of fact, it would be an incorrect judgment. Those objections against others are simply projections of our own defects. Somebody says something that you dislike, whether it is something political or something that is associated to religion or something that is associated to any of the many social issues of contention. Any objections to what they say should invite an exploration to what is that thing that is inviting the cringe factor. What is that thing that is inviting the argument? What is that is so willingly stealing from your creative energy? If we are constantly objecting within the realm of the mind, in many cases, you will realize that even after all of that event has gone, the mind is going to remain caught in that cycle of arguments and comparisons, and it would be doing that against itself. Suddenly you will find yourself driving and revisiting in your head past arguments, plausible circumstances, and you start creating all of these dramas where, of course, you will always win. Because you will figure out what is it that you should have said. How is it that you should have thought? But what that is nothing more than the intellect arguing against itself. It is nothing more than a drain of your sexual creative energy in something that is entirely useless. The consistent abuse of this sexual creative energy, simply because we abuse of this idea of not respecting the opinions of others, of constantly replying, setting resistance, pushing back. This has a long-term consequence. We could refer to this as a chronic effect. And it's a series of psychological anomalies. It brings you back into states of depression, situations where you will find yourself with some sort of nervous hysteria, even to damage to the organs. Damage like the liver, that is the foundation of our astral body. We know that the astral body exists within the lower realm of that fifth dimension. Within that fifth dimension, and in the fifth dimension, what we see is a manifestation of a superior type of emotion. We see that that is a space in creation that exists beyond time. So creating damage to our organs, whether it is our pancreas because we are simply unable to deal with the sour circumstances, or if it is to the liver because we cannot control our emotions, or if it is to our spleen, the foundation of our vital body, well, the damage can then become irreversible. These states of depression, these psychological anomalies, as you have learned in our previous conversations on the states of the ego, is intimately associated with the archeopsychic states. Archeo means old, that go all the way to the beginning. These are all of those previous events that we have stored in memory as mental image frames. Past events of arguments, past events that induced shame or invited shame, that brought in some emotional conflict, past events where we have suffered some kind of betrayal, some kind of moral tragedy. And if the brain continues to receive the inputs of all of those events that exist within the subconscious and the infraconscious, every time that we remain revisiting all of those circumstances, comparing this, what we should have said, what happened, you think about it and you see yourself curling because you can't believe that that is what you did. Well, certainly that is going to create an effect here in the present time. We need to learn to live without setting objections. Just the fact that we're having conversations with one another needs to invite us to relax so that we can listen, so that we can realize that we may be receiving some input, not an accusation. So that we may be listening to an idea that is being originated, not that someone is attacking us or judging us or coming to a conclusion. We need to move ourselves into a space where there are no objections, because no objections is the same as internal peace. We must let people say what they want. This is true for our relationships with our parents, with our children, with our spouse, with our friends at work, with the many others with whom we interact, total strangers, but active, exchanging with us in social media. We must let people say what they want. And we must learn how to truly live. The key to this is taught in the lecture, Learning How to Listen. We have learned that to learn how to listen, we must remain in a relaxed condition. Our body, our emotion, our mind need to be in a relaxed state. We need to be in that state so that we can allow those words to flow, so that we can stand ourselves at the center of the circle of Tao. And standing in the center of that circle, as we observe the pendulum swing, we can see that if the body is with a tendency of reacting to anger, well, we can see that on one extreme, there is the anger that we will experience, regardless of however that anger looks. And that its opposite is a condition of altruism. It's a condition of service, of respect. And as we see the possibility of both, we immediately can realize by empowering the consciousness that both that altruism, that respect, that charity, and that anger, that they are both the same in kind. There may be infinitely different in degree, but if they are same in kind, it becomes easier to reconcile them. And on the idea of doing no harm to others, no harm to us, no harm to the environment, no harm to the planet, well, then it is easier to remain disconnected from that. And as we remain disconnected from flowing with the pendulum into that dark side, well, we assume a superior posture. Our level of being then predominates. The consciousness is more empowered to perceive. And then no objections result. We can state our truth. And once that has been stated, if the other person still feels the need to continue pushing and forcing, it is perfectly fine just to offer them a good reverence and to turn around and simply walk away. We must learn to let people say what they want, and we must learn on how to truly live. In the exercise that we have tonight, we're going to do a brief relaxation of the physical body. And as we do this, we're going to do an exercise of retrospection so that you can see where was it today that you caught yourself placing objections. Ask your innermost to show you with utmost clarity that particular moment in the day that stood out because you simply were pushing back. You were setting a resistance because that creative energy of yours was being spent uselessly in things that added no value. And as we see this, revisit that event several times in that screen of the mind. We will ask the innermost for objective imagination. That way we can see the event with clarity without getting distracted with the appearances. We will ask the innermost for the opportunity to experience that inspiration of the consciousness. That is so that we can see the spiritual reality behind that event. And also the faculty of the intuition of the consciousness that gives us clear significance, clear reason for why is it that happened. As you revisit that event several times and you apply that objective imagination, that intuition and that inspiration, you will come to receive a better understanding on the ego, the defect, the aggregates that were present. And we will finish by invoking our Divine Mother to help us by bringing of her serpentine fire and reducing to a cosmic dust all of that you have been able to comprehend on that defect. Any little bit of consciousness that we can liberate works very well in our favor because the consciousness coalesces with itself, becomes more radiant, becomes a much more stronger magnetic center that continues to attract wisdom and continues to guide you in your steps towards the Father. So to go ahead and start, let's start by minimizing our physical sensorial perceptions. Let's start by closing our eyes. I will ask you to sit comfortably with your feet on the floor. Your hands can be comfortably on your thighs. And with your eyes closed, go ahead and take a deep breath in 1, 2. Allow the chair to receive the whole weight of your body. 1, 2. Let's make ourselves aware of the sensations in our physical body. At this time of the day, maybe your belt feels a little too tight. Maybe your wedding ring. Maybe some earrings that could be a little heavy. Maybe it's a hat or your glasses. Maybe it's your shoes. Whatever that is, take a moment and alleviate that distraction. Let's take another deep breath in 1, 2. With every exhalation, allow your body just to sink a little deeper onto that chair. And let's make ourselves aware of what is our current emotional state. Some of us may be excited about this practice. Others may feel content. There may be some who may feel indifferent. Others may feel like the day has been too much, that there have been too many challenges. And with that, they may feel emotionally tired. Some may be even defeated. And below those emotions, there are other emotions that are associated with fears, terror, frustrations, angers, all the way down to deep states of numbness in which sometimes we feel incapable of even perceiving. Whatever that emotion is, invite your consciousness to show what would be its opposite. Realize that your current emotion and the opposite are identical in kind. They are identical in nature. And they are substantially different in degree. And you know that there are times that you feel like what you feel now, and other times you feel the opposite. We know that today we are sad, and later on we will once again be happy, just like we have been happy many times in the past. Seeing that there is an opportunity, clearly understanding that these emotions are temporal, we can stand outside of the path of the swing of this pendulum. And we can give thanks to our inner Father, because knowing that emotions are temporal empowers us. It gives us an opportunity to use our consciousness to exercise a new cause, to set ourselves at an emotional, intellectual, at a completely higher level of being. We are grateful for the opportunity of being able to contemplate our emotions. And to start, we will initiate with reciting the mantra Klim Krishnaya. Say Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. For good practice, we say it again. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. For good practice, we say one last time. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopihana Vaya Vaya Swaha. This mantra creates a circle of protection around us. It is a flaming star that surrounds us, that shields us. It is a mantra that is very useful whenever we're dealing with those difficult moments and we need a shield that can bring us some inner peace. And it is a mantra that is very powerful as well in instances where there may be dangers. With this mantra, we invoke our Divine Father by saying, Divine Father, Father of mine, you who are my true being, you who are my eternal God, we ask of you, we beg of you with our soul and our heart for your contribution. Let it be you, Father, the one who enables and officiates in this practice. Give us the faculty of objective imagination so that we may see the thing itself and not be distracted with the appearances. Give us the faculty of inspiration so that we may experience the spiritual reality. Give us, Divine Father, the faculty of intuition so that we may comprehend the significance, the reason of things without relying on the intellect. We ask of this help in your holy name. So be it. And we focus our attention on our toes. And we empower the attention of our consciousness to focus on our toes, our heels, our ankles, our shins, our calves, our knees. We notice how instantaneously we start feeling that gentle softness that comes from a deep state of relaxation. And we receive it with a great deal of satisfaction. We receive it with great deal of gratefulness. And as we continue focusing on our breath, allowing our body to sink just a little deeper on that chair with every exhalation, we bring the attention of our consciousness back onto our knees, the underside of our legs, our thighs, our glutes, our pelvis. Notice the expansion of that gentle vibration that comes with relaxation. And be certain that this is what is meant to be the natural state of the human being. Let's focus once again the attention of our consciousness at the very base of our spine. As you will notice, you will even perceive that at a physical level, as there would be relaxation that extends through your pelvis into your creative organs. And allow that attention of the consciousness to continue moving itself upwards, one vertebra at a time, with every inhalation, with every exhalation. And feel the relaxation that extends into your lower abdomen. And see how your body by itself relaxes your internal organs. How it relaxes your liver, your spleen, your pancreas, your intestines. Focus your attention on your breathing and notice how the exhalations have become even softer, gentler. The breathing cycle in itself becomes almost imperceptible. We relax our stomach, our heart, our lungs. If you notice that the flow of that attention of the consciousness remains kind of stuck, goes a little slower around the middle of your spine, don't be surprised. We take another deep breath in 1, 2. And feel how that gentle relaxation expands upwards through your spine as it reaches your shoulders, the muscles of your chest, and how from your shoulders it cascades onto your elbows, your wrists, your hands, your fingers. We bring back the attention of our consciousness to the base of our skull, and that space behind the head and between the ears. Give yourself the opportunity to physically experience the presence of that attention of the consciousness right there. And as you allow that attention of the consciousness to expand along the sides of your head, relax the muscles of your jaw, your lips, your tongue, your eyes, your eyelids, the muscles of your forehead. And allow that sensation of relaxation to continue expanding alongside your head until it finds itself at the very crown. And from there, use your objective imagination to see that there is a ray of light that extends from the crown of your head upwards into the infinite heavens. And through that conduit descends a ray of a gentle blue color of light that inundates your head and descends and inundates your lungs and your heart. Divine Father, we ask of you to be the one who officiates in this practice. To do this, we will sing the mantra Om Masi Padme Yum, which means, O God, in me. Om Masi Padme Yom. 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 Om Padme Hum. Om Masi Padme Hum. Open yourself to that which is no. Embrace the principle of spontaneity. Ask of your innermost to bring into clear sight that event in which you found yourself setting objections. As you come across that event, allow it to play in the screen of your mind, and play it several times. Observe how your thoughts, your emotions, how your physical body was affected. Clearly see if you are responding by instinct, if you were just caught in emotions, or if it triggered just another one of those internal battles of the mind. Allow your consciousness to perceive how these defects impair its ability to function. Allow your consciousness to see how this brings harm to others by either inducing doubt or fear, lack of trust. And in the same way, how these circumstances bring harm in your internal work. Anything that impairs the consciousness from expressing true love, compassion, kindness, patience, tolerance, service to others, sacrifice, is worth revisiting. It's worth comprehending so that it can be eliminated. Divine Mother, we invoke you with our heart and with our soul. Divine Mother, we're here humbly at your presence, begging of you with our heart, begging you with our soul, that you bring of your serpentine fire. Let it be you the one who brings these defects to a cosmic dust. Reduce these defects, Mother. Take from them their fire. We offer you our comprehension, so you may eliminate everything that we have truly comprehended about this psychological defect. Your Divine Mother may be revealed to you in vision, and you may see her acting to reduce these defects to a cosmic dust. And in many cases, you may see her with her delicate hands retrieving from that dust a little particle of light like a grain of sand, but that shines with the intensity of 1,000 suns. And her depositing that once again into the temple of your heart. Divine Mother, we give you infinite thanks for the help that you give us. Divine Father, we beg of you that you keep active those faculties of imagination, inspiration, and intuition, so that we may move forward setting no objections, so that we may continue living our lives in an internal peace. Show us how to truly live. Manifest through us your kindness, your compassion, and your love as we sacrifice for others. We ask of this in your holy name. Amen. We take a deep breath in 1, 2. And you can wiggle your toes and your fingers. And with that, we bring to an end today's practice that is, once again, comprehending objections. Dear friends, thank you all so much for joining us this week in our activities. Thank you for being here with us this evening. To all, a good weekend, and may all beings be happy. Have a good night.